Hey, I'm down here at the Missouri River Outdoor Expo, and we have an area that they're talking about tree stand safety. So we're going to talk to the guys here about tree stand safety, because that's one of the things. You put a tree stand up, get elevated. If you fall, it definitely hurts. So we're going to talk to the guys here about it.
Probably just use these moves so we can get around.
Oh yeah, we'll do whatever here. I'm going to be creating a video, and we're going to talk about tree stands. We're getting them set up. This is before it's really starting. We can go over here. He's putting on a safety harness, which you always need to do. I know when I first started, we didn't use them, didn't know any better, and then I use a rope and then a belt, and then now I use harnesses like this because a lot safer. And even though you got a safety harness on, if you fall, they'll get into that, but that's not always going to keep you alive either. You can see it. He's just strapping around, getting him around the legs, around the chest. He's got his ankle on here.
This is my lineman's belt.
Okay.
Also,
We'll definitely get into how that works and why you want to have one of those.
okay. Which can also be used for suspension trauma relief. When you're hanging, these straps will cut the blood flow off. It will become toxic. And then when it's released, it will give you a heart attack. But if you use this lineman's belt and step into it while you're hanging and stand up, these straps loosen up and allow the blood to flow.
Now, as some of the ones I have a little loop that you drop down that you can put your foot in, but that probably looks like it's a whole lot easier to use.
Yes.
Having cargo pants, because if you got a harness on and everything pulls tight, you can't get into your pockets to get a phone or whistle or anything like that out. So keep your text or your phone or whatever in your cargo pockets where you can get to them easy.
I hadn't thought about that, but that is the point. If you don't have them in an outside pocket, you can't get to them.
You got them in the right pocket and you're hit, phone may go crunch.
Yeah.
You don't have a phone. So.
Yeah, this is definitely the thing to do, and I know there's a knot on here, and we'll get into how that works here really soon. You can see on this rope that's hanging up here, you've got one of those right there. Now you notice how easy that moved? You can move it up and down real easy. And now you hook your belt onto it, and as soon as you put pressure on it, it locks. So he can climb on it now, but see how easy it was to move it either. Now when he gets off, it just releases a little pressure and it just slides. Now is that what they call a Persix knot?
Yes.
Persix knot. They're actually pretty cool to tie.
All tree stands come with a basic harness. They look like this. Don't try and figure it out at dome light, no dark 30.
No, you want to get a good one, even though they'll come with those.
They're easier to put on, easier to figure out. And cheap insurance is a lifeline or safety line. Like
And that's what we just had here. He demonstrated. It's fastened on way up there.
As soon as he clips into the Prusik knot, he is attached to that tree from the moment he leaves the ground until he comes back down. He will not free fall.
The other thing is, put this on your harness over your street clothes. Do not put it over all of your hunting clothes, because if you're up there and you get too hot, you'll have to take it off to take off your jacket, and then you're unsecured. So put it on over your street clothes, put your hunting clothes over the top.
Good point. And probably a whole lot more comfortable too.
Yes, it is a lot more, and you don't have to have a jumbo size harness.
Yeah. Okay, we probably should get some introductions in. What is your name and what do you do?
John Ross. I'm a retired farmer, and I'm a hunter education instructor for Game and Parks.
Cool. And let's go over here. The other guy, what's your name and what do you do?
Russ Tooker, I'm a farmer, but I'm a master hunter instructor, volunteer at Game Parks. And
And
And I'm Garrett Tooker. I work as a irrigation technician, and I'm a hunter instructor with Game and Park.
And of course, we had the four-wheeler go by as we're talking, but yeah, do over. But I think we all heard it was you work for Game and Parks and hunter ed instructor as well. And
Volunteer hunter ed instructors.
now they use a lot of volunteers when they can. It's kind of nice because it's fun. I started volunteering 3 years ago at the aerial archery, which is over here. It's kind of cool. We'll get into that later, but it's a lot of fun.
As far as hunter ed, state of Nebraska has to supply 25% of the cost. That 25% is us volunteer instructors volunteering our time to teach hunter ed. The rest is federal money, comes back from excise tax on all guns and ammunition. That's what helps pay for hunter ed. So our state of Nebraska doesn't actually have to pay anything. It's our volunteer hours valued at $20 an hour. So we're all volunteer instructors.
Yeah.
And National Bowhunter Education Association is the one that trained all three of us in tree stand safety. So we're certified with them to teach this.
And that's why we're coming here, get from those that are certified and know what they're talking about. And we're kind of showing, here's a ladder stand. So,
The ladder stand, you put it together laying down on the ground, you tip it up. We have crisscross straps. You have the second person helping you to pull these up, 2 or 3 other people. You come around the tree, tie it here with your reach, get all tied in. And we like to tie our safety line to the tree stand, because that way I can be attached to something with 2 or 3 people helping hold it while I go up and put the last strap around.
Because you're not up there to fasten it to the tree.
I go up to fasten it to the stand of the tree. Then I put my lineman's belt around the tree, so I'm attached to the tree. Then I take this off the stand, put it around, and you can see we go around the tree twice. That way, if there's any slack, it doesn't slide down on it. Because
Okay,
when
that's
you
a good point.
are sitting up there, you want your harness snug. If you fall asleep, you don't go any further than you already are. Or if you do anything, you don't fall any further than you already are with that already snug. With sprucing knot, you can hang on to the ladder, just like you can up and crawl up the ladder that way. Control it. You always take everything on the haul line, your backpack, your munchies for the day and stuff, coffee, your gun, your bow. You never take them up with you. If you fall, they're attached to you like a gun across your back. Major injuries.
Yeah. I know when I set my safety belts up, I do it so as I'm sitting down, it's pulling up on me slightly.
Yes.
And then as I stand up, it don't let me go any further. I can't step off my tree stand because all I can fall down is to my seat because I keep it that way. So I can't fall past my seat. The only time I'd really get trouble is if the tree stand itself fell.
Some people like to stand, and if they keep that snug, they can actually lean out and shoot behind the tree.
I've actually done that. Use my safety belt to support me getting into a weird angle, and it's a nerve wracking because you're holding on to it, and it's like, okay, it's there, and you don't just lean forward and expect it to be there.
But if you get used to it, it can be done.
Yeah. So let's get into some stats on hunters getting hurt.
Nationwide, around 85-86% of all hunting accidents are tree stand related, and about 80% of those are homemade tree stands. The 2x4 screw to trees, the 2x4 breaks off or rots, or the screws pull out. People fall, get hurt, major injuries.
I even had pegs that were screwed in pegs pulling, and went to move the tree and they broke because they'd in there so long. And
the screw-in steps usually don't get through all the bark, and we have had in Nebraska where somebody had one pull out, they dropped down the lower one and it impaled them and they hung on the rib cage. Lost some intestines after surgery, so I do not recommend those.
Yeah, the strap-on one's a little bit easier, but when I first started, they didn't have all this nice fancy equipment.
No, they did not.
It was screw-in steps and that was it. Yeah. I try to avoid the big trees that have the real deep bark, not quite so much this one, but if we look over here, that one's got some really deep bark on it. I just hate getting in those because I can't get past past the bark. But if I do screw it in, I always end up taking the bark off and run it, so I get into the meat. And I don't like doing that to trees if I can avoid it, so I try to find a better tree.
If you're on public land,
You can't.
you're damaging that tree, and that's against the rules.
Yeah.
Screw in steps or anything, nothing. You can't cut tree limbs off, or even the little tiny ones that are in your way. You can't cut those off on public land. So
Now, a lot of different things going on out there. So, we talked a little bit about how to put up a ladder stand. What are some of the biggest safety hazards when you are setting one up? What's probably the number one thing you need to be aware of when you're setting them up?
3 people.
3 people at least
One-
to put it up.
If you have to put it together on the ground, laying down, then you got to tip it up, has 2 people pull on them straps to help, and then cross them behind the tree. So it takes at least 3 people.
Yeah, I just set them up, yeah.
The ground is a little too hard here for this demonstration, but you should be embedded up to the first rung. You should be embedded in the ground to keep it anchored to the tree.
Okay, I know a lot of places I put them in, it sinks down anyway, and
That's what you
and
want. That's what you want. You want it up to there. We couldn't get that on this hard ground. We didn't have
yeah, this
any-
is like concrete. This ground right here.
You want your reach put in right. You don't want it to stand too straight up and down. If it's straight up and down and this reach doesn't work right, then you're on the wrong tree,
Right.
probably.
And we can see that that's pretty much, you stand at the bottom, it's almost kind of arm length away, like you'd put up a regular ladder.
Yes.
And
Reach
pretty
has
much,
to be in there. Otherwise, you get halfway up, it can collapse with your weight in on you.
now at the top, let's see, where am I trying to see? The platform's going to be pretty much level. And
Yes.
that's kind of the indication of where, you know, if you got the
Well,
right
slightly
angle.
back towards the tree. You don't want it sloped away from the tree. That promotes going right over the edge if you aren't too careful. So.
And that's uncomfortable. It's always want to be sliding forward on the seat. Yeah.
And there's a ratchet strap that goes around the tree up there that attaches it.
Okay, let's clear up here at the top.
And we've gone as high up as we could with the lifeline or the safety line. Gone around twice so that, like I said, it's kind of like an old Chinese finger trap toy. You go
Yeah.
around once, they're slack, it slides down on you all the time. So if you go around twice, it'll stay put.
Now, why do you want to have the safety line so far above the tree stand?
Again, when you're standing or sitting, you want to have your harness snug when you're sitting down. That way, there's tether that he has there.
Are you going to climb up and show us what you got to do?
Yep.
Let me kind of get a little bit different angle here.
Kind of hanging onto the rope and controlling. If you hang onto the knot and you fall, the knot will not grab, so you don't hang on to the
Oh,
knot.
yeah, because that's what you do to move it.
And you will get a major rope burn if you hang onto that knot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Down, And most people, the transition from the platform onto the platform or back down off the platform is where they lose it and fall. That's a major point where most falls occur.
Now you can see he's got that knot clear up there. And as he sits down, there's not much slack in there, is there?
Nope.
So if you was to slide off that seat, you wouldn't move very far.
Wouldn't go any further than it pretty much already is, and that's when you have the slack and that slack pulls out, that's when you really get hurt.
Yeah. And now he's raising up his wooden gun at this time because we don't have live guns right down here. And now he's all ready. It could be a bow, it could be a muzzleloader, it could be a spear if you're gonna do spear hunting.
If you have a bow with a quiver on it, the cap to the quiver you haul with the cap first. If you hold up fletching first, if you hit an arrow, it could snap it out of your quiver, and then you've got something nice and sharp at dark 30 on the ground under you.
Yeah, and one less
Step on when you come back down.
one less weapon to shoot.
And but then when you drop your arrow, your bow, you have the quiver cap down again, so that bumps into things. If you drop it quiver or the quills first or the fletching first, that could pop them out of the quiver, and again, you've got something razor sharp down on the ground under you.
Yeah, we don't want that.
But you may find the wrong way through a foot or something once you get down there. So
Because who knows where it falls.
yeah, leaf and then everything, it could be pretty well camouflaged trying to find it. Could be hazardous. So you haul it with the quiver cap first, and you drop it with the quiver cap.
So quiver crap tells you which direction the bow is moving.
That tells you which way, so you don't want to get it to where the arrows can be pulled out of the quiver. But you can see he's got his.
Okay, now you having fun up there? Are you ready to come down? Let's kind of show everybody the correct way to come down.
Yesterday with the wind, that seat was moving about 4 inches with the tree moving in the wind yesterday. So.
I got on the tree and the wind picked up, and it's a smaller tree, and it was just moving. I was just basically hanging on to the side until the wind died enough to come down. I couldn't have drawn on a deer if I wanted to. Arrow wouldn't have stayed on the rest. And you can see as he climbs down, pull the pressure, it pulls the knot down.
This hangs on the rope with his free hand, and when you go up or down any ladder, anytime there's a 3-point rule, 2 hands, 2 feet, you only move one at a time. Always have 3 points of contact.
And now you can see he's got it where he's just hanging, trying to be Superman, flying.
He has his lineman's belt that he can stand in. Suspension trauma relief. When the leg straps pull tight and the blood quits flowing, when blood quits moving, the pH changes and becomes toxic. And when it flows again, it doesn't change back to pH. So if you've heard the TV shows, somebody's having a heart attack, they give them so many ampules of sodium bicarb, they're changing that pH mechanically.
Right.
And if it starts to seep back into your body, it can actually, about 20 to 30 minutes, you can have a heart attack and die from suspension trauma.
And also, the safety belt's supposed to save your life, but if you don't get out of it, I know industrial stuff, they always teach you, okay, what's your plan to rescue them? Because you got, what, 5 minutes?
So you have a strap, you can put 1 foot in to take, it depends on your harness, what they have. There's various different ways of doing that. This one has a harness here that you can unfurl, and there's a loop on there, but it's been rolled up so much trying to get pack boots into that loop.
Yeah.
It's quite frustrating to try and do that. So you want to, this is on one side where they put their lineman's belt.
But I like the idea that the rope under the lineman's rope.
You can
Because
step
it
around behind you on the back part of your
right.
harness and just keep it out of the way, and that way you've got it. It's the Prusik knot, you can adjust it for length to fit in.
It's another Prusik knot, so I can make it longer, I can make it shorter, and then when I need it to hold tension, it'll hold that tension.
So you have one in the tree itself, then you keep one on you as well.
Yep.
And then if you're climbing up, you can use that as your
That
help
one,
climbing.
You can use that as line belt on like the hang-on stands. You have 3 points of contact. You can put your climbing sticks up. You have your 2 feet on the climbing sticks and your lineman's belt around. That's your 3rd point of contact. Then you have both hands free to put your climbing sticks and your hang-on stand up.
Yeah.
So you always have that 3 points of contact.
And the Prusik knot's probably the easiest knot you'll ever learn to tie. You just start with your loop, and you pass it through once, twice, 3 times. And now you've got your Prusik knot. It'll slide if you hold the knot, and then bind and hold tension when you need it to.
Probably the best knot to ever learn to tie.
And on this, with his lineman's belt, he could store it behind him. Then if he needs to, if there's a... I heard of a guy that had 2 bucks come along and started fighting. And they got into his ladder stand. He yanked it out from under him.
Oh.
That was before the safety lines. And he had a tree strap, but he was up there. A buddy saw him 100 yards away and came over and twisted the stand back under him to get down. But you know, if you're by yourself and haven't told anybody where you're going, but you should always tell them where you're going.
Yeah.
So when you don't show up in time, they know where to come looking for you. You might be a suspension trauma relief sitting there waiting for somebody to come find you.
And the chance of somebody coming by that don't know you're supposed to be there.
Yeah. Always hunt with a plan, and always hunt your plan.
Yeah.
Don't change it.
BB guns.
You can see John's put on the lineman's belt, and to put up like a hang-on stand, he could have both feet on the sticks. With that lineman's belt's his 3rd point of contact. Because it always has 3 points of contact.
You put on another ladder stick until you get as high as you want. Then you bring the stand up, attach it to the tree, and get above the platform, 18 to 20 inches, step down into it. Then you put the lifeline up high and take your tether and hook into the prusik knot on the lifeline. Then you can undo the tree belt because you are now attached to the tree with the lifeline. Then you come down. So now you've got it all ready to go. Every time you come, you hook in, stay attached all the way up and all the way back down.
Kind of the biggest takeaway is always be attached to something and have at least 3 points of contact at all times. And that's what I've always told them. You got 3 points of contact. Never use the ladder stand or the tree stand as a step.
Yeah, you always, on your platform, you step down into the middle of the platform on a hang-on stand. If you step on the edge, a lot of them only have one strap and they can tip and they'll dump you. So if you step down into the very middle, that locks it onto the tree and embeds it into the tree the way they're designed. So you always want the climbing sticks to go way above your platform on your hang-on stands.
Yeah, and I always like to have at least 2 or 3 above the stand when I'm so I can climb up, and then I'm lowering down onto the stand as I'm adding more and more weight. I've still got 1 foot and 2 hands attached to the tree.
Right. Yeah, if you climb up and try to step on the edge, they can. This one's got 2 straps, but most of them nowadays only have 1 strap, and that can spin, twist. You step into the middle, and that embeds it into the tree and locks it onto the tree, and doesn't avoid any twisting or angles.
Now, like I said, this one has another strap on there, which it's not going to twist quite as much.
Right.
But even if you just pull down on the one side, you can see it wants to kind of twist a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of the newer ones we see only have 1 strap on them anymore. And it makes
I
it
never
easier to
liked
put
one
up,
strap
but-
ones.
But that's you can but you don't step on the edge. They can twist and move on you. You step into the middle to lock it onto the tree, and these will bed into the bark and bite. So you always want to step into the middle, not on the edge. Always go well above so you can do that.
Yeah, you
Actually,
notice there's
lower yourself
2
down
steps
and
up
step into
there,
it.
and you're going to go up to there and then step onto it.
You can move that on a lot of them and get out of the way so you can get better access. And then on the self-climbing ones, you have
Self-climbing, you start at the base of the tree, and you can sit in the chair here, and you use your feet to lift the bottom part up, and then you stand up on the foot platform and raise the upper part up, and you just kind of inchworm your way up the tree. And the important things to remember here are that you want both pieces to be tethered together, because if you get halfway up the tree and you drop, say, one of them, then you're stuck. You can't go anywhere.
I can imagine that would be a problem.
The second thing to watch out for is, these self-climbing stands is you'll start out at the bottom of the tree, and trees are usually bigger around at the bottom, and then they get narrower towards the top.
Yeah.
So you need to start where this platform, it'll be kind of a pretty severe angle at the base of the tree, and then as you climb upwards and that tree gets narrower and narrower, it'll get flatter and flatter and flatter. And you don't ever want that bottom part to tip past, parallel with the ground, because then it loses its mechanical advantage to actually grip the tree trunk.
if it's level or tipped away from the tree, it won't bite the tree. So you always want a slight incline out here. If it's level, go back down, readjust your straps, get to where it's got a bit of an incline to it towards the tree at all times, even when you're way up there.
So you're going to have to anticipate how big it's going to be once you get to the top where you're going to be. And if not, then you got to start all over and shorten it up, because I don't imagine you can shorten those up once you're up in the tree.
No, that's attached to a lineman's belt So you're attached to the tree with your harness. You move the lineman's belt up, you move this part up, you move this part up. You move the lineman's belt up, you move this part, you move this part. It's a three-piece process to inch worm your way up the tree.
And you got to pretty much have a pole like this to climb.
This one's a dummy tree the International Hunter Education Association had one of their flyers, and John got somebody to help make one for the Game
It took a lot of work, but I finally got Game and Parks to go ahead and build two of these portable trees so we can teach this tree stand safety indoors if we have to.
Yeah, you just need tall enough ceiling for it.
Right, tall enough ceiling. In fact, we did use these at the big game expo in Lincoln, Nebraska last year in January.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the hang-on stand, you can see all your timing sticks and your that, and then your lifeline. This replaces your lifeline, but you are attached to the tree from the moment you leave the ground till you come back down. So it's a three-piece process on the self-climbing. Move that, move this, move this, move this, move this.
So even though that one's a rope and then you have a rope on your harness, this takes the place of the rope on the tree. It's just a little strap instead of a rope.
Right.
And if you hunt the same tree over and over again, you could put a lifeline or a safety line up and with the Prusik knot and use that instead. But then sometimes that rope hanging down can get in the way of helping these things climb. So
Yeah.
6 to 1, half dozen to the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's there's a lot to learn on this that I'm sure a lot of bow hunters and ref hunters that hunt out of elevated platforms just don't think about.
Some of
And
the self-climbing ones have a secondary strap that will come around here or around here that locks on, so if there's any slack, it doesn't fall.
yeah,
'Cause that's the other thing, it takes your body weight on these things to keep them from falling, but if there's any slack at all, they will fall. So there's some models that are out there that do have once you're at your hunting height, you can put a strap around here, lock it on, that way it won't do that. Or some have it come around, there's various different models.
because if all of a sudden you stand up and you're standing up and you catch this, then the whole thing falls on you, and now then you got to try and
Yep.
figure out what to do. So
That's where you end up hanging from this.
yeah,
You're attached to the tree, you won't free fall.
yeah, yeah, you're always going to be attached to that the whole way up and down. You're just going to be moving it, and I kind of like being able to. I've never used a climber like this. I started with a lot of the hang-ons and then now ladder stands. I've done a few blinds, but I like to be in the elevated position. You know, I like it because I'm up there, I can see more, but I can also be seen, but then there's hazards, you know.
You have some of them, they're up there 20, 30 feet, but if you're too high up, shooting down at an angle, you're trying to get an arrow. If you're shooting bows, you're trying to get an arrow through the spine, which is not a good shot.
No, that's not a good shot.
And 12, 15 feet is probably good enough to get above a lot of the foliage and get good vision. And you get a little flatter shot on your deer rather than an elevated shot through the spine, which is a low percentage shot that could wound something and let it get away. So.
Yeah,
One of the important things is, to practice with these things at home and be real familiar with them before you actually go out and hunt with them. So practice at home at a low level.
yeah, practice like with a hang-on. You find a, so you may not have but 10 to 15 feet to go up the tree, but practice going up, sitting there, locking it in, climbing down, up and down until you can do it. Basically, you're doing it without thinking.
Right.
You can see on this harness, there's these sacrificial pieces that'll tear out, act like a shock absorber should he take a really long fall. That's where you're trying to keep the slack out of it at all times with your Prusik knot or whatever you're self-climbing with your tree strap, so you don't do that. And if these do ever pull out even partially, it's time to cut up the harness and buy a new one.
Right, buy a new one because
Well,
once
These
you
harnesses
fall,
actually have a 3 year 3 years after manufacture, you're supposed to destroy them or buy new ones.
It says, it'll say on the tag, it'll say like 3 years from first use, or it'll have a manufacturing date and say, 3 years. It could sit in the warehouse for that 3 years and not be But
So it's the first time you take it on to use it. You
depends
got
on
3
the-
years.
Depends
Right.
on the manufacturer, what they say. Some
Yeah.
of them say 3 years from first use. Some say 5 years. It just depends on the. But we're seeing more and more 3-year now. They don't know if it's hanging on a nail in the garage next to the window, dry rotting in the sun. It's under the seat of the pickup truck with a bunch of engine oil or something like that. rotting.
Yeah, all that.
They don't know how you store it in the off season. So
Yeah, you definitely want to store them where they'll be nice and dry and out of the sun and out of the weather. And
you have to check your straps on anything that goes around the tree. You go in September, leaves are on the trees swell up. You get into, once the leaves fall and the cambium layer quits flowing, the trees actually can shrink. And so you may need to tighten your straps. And then you get into -0 temperatures and the trees can actually freeze and swell up and put a lot of pressure on the stitching. You may need to loosen it and retighten it to keep it from damaging the sewing. And you don't know if a squirrel chewed on your straps, so you need to check.
I've seen
The
that.
flashlight. Don't carry the flashlight in your mouth when you're climbing up anything. That causes damage too. You want to check out, make sure. I've seen pictures of black bear on somebody's ladder stand.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't need to be in the pine ridge and just get your face up the platform level and find a porcupine slapping the face with its tail.
Yeah.
That would be a rude awakening. So check these things out, check your straps, walk around the tree with a flashlight and check things out first. Make sure nothing's chewed on anything and everything looks good. Give everything a good shake and then proceed with safety. And a lot of people leave tree stands up year round. You know, you need to probably replace the straps every few years or just replace the whole tree stand every few years.
Yeah, because that tree keeps growing every year and it gets tighter and tighter. And
the safety lines will also have an expiration date on them, just like the harness. And you leave it sit out there 365 days a year in the elements. It's cheap insurance, $30 to buy a new safety line.
yeah, they're not very expensive, and it's definitely worthwhile to get up there.
The deductible on your insurance.
True.
We have met someone who, one of the first few times they used the harness and the safety line, actually had a stroke, and it kept him from falling out of the tree. And he was able to hit the button and hit redial and call his wife, and she knew where he was because he told her where he was going.
Yeah, that's definitely something to be aware of when you're out there. Is let somebody know and when you expect to be back. And like I said, I like the idea. You said make sure your phone and communication devices are in your outside pocket.
Everything, so you never know.
Oh yeah, you can see.
We have a new seat to put on here, so
squirrel.
Squirrel, raccoon, whatever can get into things. They can chew on your straps. They can chew on everything. These cables have an expiration date. You can, if the company's still in business, you can get new ones, but most of these tree stands, even the ladder stands, are like $60 anymore, so they're not that expensive.
Yeah, they're getting fairly inexpensive. Now, of course, now with everything going up, everything's going back up again, but everything else is up.
Yeah.
So, a lot of good information that we got in here on tree stand safety, and I know I always push it to anybody I can talk to. Some of the safety stuff, but it's really nice being able to talk to you guys and get the latest information.
I want you to hunt safe, be safe, put the deer on the ground, not yourself.
Right. We want to walk on the ground, not fall on the ground.
We don't want that Wile E. Coyote imprint of your body on the ground.
No, that definitely would hurt.
That would definitely hurt. And even if you go up there and you have some slack and you can see those pleats that were in that safety strap there on his tether, that sudden stop, but there's a lot of slack that really is going to hurt you. And,
yeah.
And some of the buddy stands that hang on, or the ladder stands or buddy stands, a lot of these safety lines have 2 Prusik knots. But everybody should have their own safety line, because if you're 2 people on the same line, if one person falls off, you tend to pull the other person with you.
Yeah, that's
so
a
everybody
point.
should have their own safety line, and you can actually get by where we went around the tree strap, or the safety line we went around the tree.
Right.
You have a second Prusik knot, you can use that to snug it up and only go around once, and that'll keep the slack from.
Oh, yeah,
that's a good use for that second Prusik knot. But if you have, Dad and a little kid on the same line, somebody slips and falls, they're going to pull the other one. You know, knees, elbows, things kicking each other.
Especially if
in the face,
dad falls
teeth,
off,
and-
the kids don't have enough weight. Other way around, if it's, you might be able to survive, but best to have your own.
Somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah. Well, if one falls and you take the other one with you, you can't have any help. But if one falls, the other one's okay, then you can use that other person to help them back in.
And that way, if one person falls, the other person's still there. They can possibly, extract themselves, go down, and help that other person.
Yeah.
It depends on the situation, but it's better than both being hanging from the tree, and that's not that expensive for another $30.
No.
It's still cheaper than the insurance deductible.
Yeah. Even going to the VA, it's still cheaper. Because you always got the meds and stuff in there, and those, unless you get those free, then you got pay on those. And
Yeah, I met a hunter ed instructor years ago. His college roommate in Pennsylvania was crawling up a tree with his rifle across his back. 2x4 pulled out, nails broke off, and he landed on the gun. The bolt handle shoved into his back and dislocated 2 ribs from his spine. A little bit over it could have spined him, paralyzed him, or killed him.
oh,
So
yeah.
that's another reason why you use a haul line. And if you need 2 haul lines, one for your backpack, and you put a strap on up there, strap hook, you don't use the screw ends because you don't want to deface a tree.
Right.
But straps, they have straps with hooks for like hanging your bow. You can hang your backpack with your coffee and your lunch. Put everything on, your harness on your street clothes. That way if you get warm, you can take everything off and you're still attached to that tree. Just like that, he's got on under his coat.
Oh, yeah. Here's
Not under my coat. My strap is still.
because it comes out the top, so it really
Right.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, so I can have this.
Now, if
all
you put
set
your
up.
hood up, then that's a little bit different.
Yeah,
But
it's a little different, but it still would still be there. even
Yeah.
With the hood up.
you might have to just change a little bit, where you fasten it, so you have a little bit more
Some
room.
clothes
But,
have a slot in the back to put the tether through, but then you can't quite take it all the way off.
oh yeah, yeah. I've actually seen some that have hunting clothes that have a little hole back there, and I never really paid attention too much because I never really wanted to.
Yeah.
Because since
Put
it
it
was
through
in
there.
the tree tethered and you was getting too warm, you could take this coat off and you would
still
still
attach that tree.
be attached
Attached.
to the tree. Otherwise you'd be tempted to take the harness off, take the coat off, and then you're going to fall down.
If you miss that first step, you're going to miss all the rest.
Yeah, yeah. The first step is important. That the other ones don't matter if you miss the first one, because you're going to miss all them too.
That's either way. If you have too much slack and these things pull out, it's that sudden stop. And that's the same thing if you hit the ground, that sudden stop. That's what
Yeah.
hits you.
Because if you fall, a few inches, that's not so bad. But if you fall like 6 inches, that's a big jerk on there, and it's yanking up on the straps down around the legs and everything else. And
You'd have to fall from 4 or 5 feet before these would start tearing out. But a normal fall of 5-6 inches, they won't tear out.
The owner's manuals on the tree stand harnesses we've dealt with have said hang from it. Step off your tree stand at home, 2-3 feet off the ground, hang from it and get used to what it feels like. So you know
Yeah.
what to expect.
like your son was doing off of the other night, he was just kind of hanging and see what it felt like.
That's
And
what the directions say to do on a lot of the tree stands or the tree stand harnesses says to practice. You don't jump and rip all the pleats out, but just
then he destroyed his harness.
ease into it and see what it feels like, so you know ahead of time what's going to happen.
And I kind of got when my daughter's really young, we got a life jacket for her. And I wrapped her around and I picked her up with it. Does it feel okay? Yeah, it feels okay. Because I wanted to make sure that everything felt as I lifted her up. Because it had a handle. She fell in the water. I could grab the handle and pull her out because she didn't weigh much at the time. Now I wouldn't be able to pull her. She'd have to pull herself out.
Yeah,
But
you want to make sure everything, if you put on, I know we've had people put on over insulated clothing and they ease into it. How much slack when they get all the air out of that insulated clothing, how much extra slack. I mean, the crossbar comes up to here.
oh, yeah.
He's got, like Garrett's got the upper crossbar. Pull the sleeves from coming off your shoulders. Well, if you got put on over your insulated clothing, that all ends up there right in your bridge of your nose. That's why you put it on underneath where you have more firm.
Yeah.
And
Make sure you get it, you know, tight enough that it's in there, takes slack out, but not so tight that it cuts off your circulation.
yeah,
Kind of a fine point. There's a lot to doing this, and what would you suggest somebody that's just getting started out at making sure they get all this set and doing it right?
well, I've always found good information at the professional stores like Shields and Guns and Shields and Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's.
Cabela's.
They have, you know, archery pro shops. That's a good way to set up your bow and not avoid spending lots of extra money on things you don't need. But they also are very well versed in the tree stand harnesses and things like that. And good information.
A lot of the, say you buy a tree stand product or something like that, it should come with fairly well detailed instructions, and a lot of them now even have, you know, links to a video where you can go, instead of just reading how to do it and looking at pictures, you can actually watch someone do it in a video, and then familiarize yourself with your equipment ahead of time. I think that's going to be what sets you up for the most success.
Yeah, put your harness on at home instead of the dome light or no dark 30. Trying to
Yeah.
You know, especially if it's the factory one that's a can of worms. And
Oh yeah, the factory ones. I got to put them on a dozen times so I can figure out how to put them on,
Right.
because they're just, they say right, left, you know, shoulder, and you go to put them on and it's like, what? You know, and then they don't fit. You got to figure them out, and that's what's nice about the harness like this. They're just so easy. They're easy to go on.
they're
They're
adjusted, the leg straps, the belly strap, and the chest strap. You know, there's some of them that are a vest that you can actually zip up or whatever. There's different ones over the years. I've
Yeah.
seen, so that's, work with it ahead of time. Don't try and figure out the low dark 30 with the dome lighted pickup truck. And,
I have enough time seeing anything at that
Yeah.
time in the morning.
yep.
So yeah, let's take a walk around these turkeys, so you can see this is actually a pretty nice one here.
Well, yeah.
That's the same vest I'm wearing.
Oh yeah, that's okay. Where's this one looks like a manufacturer's one.
Yeah.
We can see what it takes to figure out how to put this thing on. All the
Left
straps are
front
tangled.
shoulder. There's the strap and expiration date on it. And right front shoulder. Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out. That's gonna take some time.
Yeah, just figure out what goes where, and it seems like I always get tangled.
Yeah.
You usually gotta find the tether first.
Yeah, and then here's one that's fairly easy to use. It's got a strap. It's all fixed up. Slides it on like you're doing a backpack.
Not quite
Nope,
right.
you missed.
Nope.
Oh, he missed.
Wrong loop.
There you go.
Yeah, and if that's the hardest part of putting this on, is grabbing that right loop. And then how tight do you want that to be?
You want it snug, like I
Snug.
said, that slack and stuff. Whenever that stuff pulls out, that's the part that hurts.
Because yeah,
That's one I can-
you want it snug, because you saw when I was actually hanging from the rope, you saw how much slack still pulled out of it.
Yeah.
Even after it was snug.
And make sure you get them adjusted so there's nothing in the way.
A whole lot easier to put on than trying to figure that out. So.
Yeah, it took you less time to put that on. We did try to figure out which one goes where. I've used those and I hate them. And
Start with finding your tether.
Okay.
This one's a really short tether compared to this longer one.
yeah,
And that's going to be between your shoulder blades.
and
These type of buckles are the one you actually have to go through and come back with, or I guess it's got the metal buckles on there. You got to put those through to buckle your leg straps and your chest strap, and
Yeah.
and it still looks like it's twisted.
Very difficult.
Yeah,
Easy to get the straps twisted, then it's uncomfortable. So,
you
but they
almost
will work.
They do work, yeah. And I think you said all tree stands nowadays come with one of those.
Right.
They have to.
There's one size fit most. There's men's. There's women's. There's ones for kids. So they have little tiny kids. So.
And HHS makes that, and this one comes with
Lifeline. There's your carabiners. There's your tree strap.
What is this?
Tree
Like
stand
that.
safety.
So.
everything. And now today's dollar, what does one of these go for about? Yeah, man.
30, 40, 50 bucks, 60 bucks.
Yeah.
This one was on a silent auction on a whitetails banquet.
Oh, so you're not sure what that is,
I
but
think I got it for like 30 bucks. So.
yeah, there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
Just search around for them. Get a good brand one.
This is your safety line. You can purchase them at Gales, Bass Pro, Cabela's, whatever. It's safety line. You don't want to use line from Menards or Walmart because it's not.
They're not rated right.
Right. So, and this is a 30-foot line with a Prusik knot on it. It's probably about $30. You can go to a mountain climbing store and buy mountain climbing line and make your own. But if you do that, make sure the Prusik knot is a rope that is of a smaller diameter than the lifeline and of a different texture. Otherwise, it will not lock up.
Good point. Yeah.
It's just about as easy to go buy one of these.
By the time you go buy the line, you have to cut. You got to prep it. You got to buy the other line. You got to tie the knots in there. Yeah, just spend the money and go get one of those.
All right.
And Muddy Outdoors makes some really good equipment. That was what your harness is.
There is Menards rope.
The cheap rope that's, you buy a 100-foot coil. We tied this between some trees to let little kids practice Prusik knot 5 or 6 times up and down the rope, and all the rope just started rupturing.
Yeah.
So use proper.
And that's actually inside of the rope coming out.
Yeah.
And all we did was tie it between 2 trees and let kids practice Prusik knot, sliding it back and forth, and that's in an hour we had this happening.
Yeah. And if you like this stuff and put your life on the line,
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Your
But
life. It's
I'd really
your-
put mine on that line, not that line.
This one's been tested with used to be, say, Treestand Manufacturers Association. Now they've gone to an industrial ISO something or other,
ISO.
ISO International Standards Organization,
Now,
and they haven't quite come out with a new to replace the TMA, but it should be on anything that's been drop tested. They've dropped weights on it with the harnesses. They've dropped things on the tree stands. They're basically been tested that they meet all specifications for federal regs and stuff. So
well, in your ISO standards, your industrial places use that
yeah,
because that's companies that do construction work. They have ISO standards. They don't have the TMA standard. That's just for tree stand. That's kind of the baby version of it. ISO standards are really a little more strict and probably a lot more intense on the testing.
and because the federal organization, they don't get sued, but the TMA kept finding themselves getting sued even though they were setting standards. People still would not read the directions, follow the tree, and get hurt, and then they'd sue somebody. There used to
Yeah.
one time be over 400 tree stand manufacturers, and lawsuits got them down to 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And every few years, just they go out of business just because all the lawsuits, and reform is another company or somebody else buys them out.
And that's not the way to do business.
Liability is so great on tree stands, but I know if somebody returns a tree stand to Cabela's, if it's been open, box has been open, they've got a chop saw in the back room, they chop it all up and throw it in the
I've worked at Cabela's and Bass Pro both, and if one comes in, say like you get a tree stand home and it's missing a part, they have to send them, return it, send a whole new one, or send that part and the rest is destroyed. They just,
Yeah,
if it's opened, you can't return them.
Chop saw and they cut it up and it goes in the trash can. All
Yeah.
the usable parts are all cut up, and I have for some of the GM Parks tree stands years ago, they bought new parts, new straps, all new pieces and stuff, and I got to go through and update all the tree stands for them. Put all the new parts. There's like the cable up there that holds, like the cables here. for the whole
Right.
ladder stand. I got to replace those. Those have an expiration date on them too. Might be rubber covered, but might look good, but you
Yeah.
don't know inside what's there. So
Yeah, you can't really see what's going on inside the cab. There could be a crack and it could be rusting. You just never know until
so
it
many
fails.
repetitions of stress, and it's time to replace them.
Yeah, 'cause cables, you know, they stretch. Not as much as the cloth ones, but the steel cables will stretch. And then all of a sudden they break and
Yeah. What's your life worth?
yeah.
That's a whole lot cheaper than the deductible on your insurance.
Because it probably you probably still paid, you know, quite a bit for that rope.
Yeah.
And it's not very, it's even thinner rope. You
That's
know.
another thing we forgot to mention, that on the Treestand knot, this needs to be 1/3 smaller in diameter than the load rope. If they're the same diameter, it won't grab. So being smaller diameter, somehow it locks up.
That's kind of interesting how a little smaller diameter will do that.
And that, yeah, just kind of here and here, it kind of binds and locks it together. But you just kind of push right there, and it starts sliding again.
Yeah, as it locks up, you're just kind of pushing right on this part of it, kind of
Yeah.
right there, just kind of loosens it up so it moves.
And you can see how this one has metal.
Oh yeah,
And some of the others I've worked with, you could tell they had hot glue in the middle of the knot too, along with the metal that ties it, so that's not coming untied.
because that comes untied. That's where all your pressure is, right on that knot.
Yeah. So that's, you know, they've been tested. They're manufactured to certain standards. They meet those standards. They're periodically, samples are tested to make sure they're still meeting spec.
It's like all manufacturing. You're
Yeah.
going through a testing phase and
And,
make sure it meets your standards.
You see even the base of this one, so it won't come unraveled, has metal on there. It's been melted. And the knot up the top, that loop to go through is just like this. It's got metal and the knot and the metal to tie it, lock it down so it won't come loose.
Well, and even if you buy one, you got to go through. If you're going to do the same thing, you're going to burn the ends. You're going to have to get some metal clip that clips around them. By the time you do all that, you spent more than buying already made up.
And then your rope is of unknown
Quality.
quality. Like I keep saying, what's your life worth?
Yeah, and by the time you go to a climbing store that sells the actual rated climbing stuff,
That's what we started using to begin with, and we had the proper knots and things tied in them, and yeah.
well, go buy 30 feet of climbing rope. If they'll sell you just a 30-foot piece.
That's 10, 12 bucks a foot, 15, 20 bucks a foot. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long time since I actually was in a store and seen the stuff. I think it was when I was in Cabela's one time and they had a climbing section in there. And yeah, I'd rather, you know,
yeah,
buy one of these. In fact, I have one of those, one or two of those. I don't remember now, but
One thing, another thing, you want to use approved carabiners. These here spring-loaded ones, they have sharp edges
yep.
that will cut your rope, and they might get pushed in and unhook, whereas your mountain climbing ones have threads. It's locked.
Yeah,
And once
it can't
you want to
come
use
out.
it, you put the thread, then it opens up, and everything is nice and smooth, won't cut your rope.
Oh yeah, there's no little
And once
marks
you let
there.
it slip shut,
see,
you
there's no
spin the
abrasion
threads
on the
up.
rope here from the sharp edges.
then
And you've been hooking them up for that rope's been used how many times?
many
Many times.
Yeah.
yeah, but use good carabiners, approved for mountain climbing.
Yeah, you can see Garrett's on his.
This is probably not what I want on my tether.
Right.
That one's handy for tethering and untethering on demonstrations here, but if we were doing it, we would have the lock.
Right, have the locking ones instead.
This is what I'd want.
I think Bass Pro Shop, a set of 3 of these was 18, 20 bucks
Well, that's not bad
for 3 of them.
for the real rated carabiners.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
This
like for
is-
demonstration, you said that's nice because it hooks on and off really
This
quick.
one is a real, it's a real one. It's a mountain climbing. It's a Petzl. But with the smooth edges where we're hooking and unhooking all the time during demonstrations here at the expo, it's easier on us.
Yeah. And it's still rated for your weight,
Rated.
so
Yes,
It's
it is.
rated. It's just not a locking one, but it is rated.
well, I think it's been some real good information. I'll try and step back here a little bit and get all three of you in the video here at the end.
Service 2 years from first use.
Is what?
Removed from service 2 years from first use on this.
Oh.
On this safety line.
So you gotta really go through and get pay attention to this stuff, and we want you to be safe, and that's why I wanted to talk to you guys here this year and get some good information on tree stands from the experts. You guys have been trained by some of the best places, so you're the ones that want to really have the good information and the new standards and everything. I didn't realize ISO was now getting involved in certifying some of this stuff. It makes sense because they do everything else. It's the same. Your industrial harnesses, now these have to meet the same thing your industrial ones do. Before they didn't have to, but
Well, we've had some of the tethers that you could put on that descenders that you could pull something and they would drop you down. And,
yeah,
they're on the market for a year and then they disappear. Now
I remember
commercial
seeing
lighting
those,
for
but
the power company trucks, theirs are $1,200 and they're recertified every year.
right.
So, but yeah, you see the ones that are supposed to slowly lower you down, but you see them in advertisements and you never see them again. They disappear pretty quick. So
I've actually been on one, a line where you step off and it had one of those, and it's a magnetic eddy currents is what they call it, being electro engineer, but and you step off and it slowly lowers you down, and it's like, well, this is cool. You step off and you slow, but that thing was huge, and every year they got to be certified, and it was a big thing that would take the weight of somebody, 250 pounds. I don't know what it was rated at, probably up to 300 pounds, but get more than that. That's something. On your tree stands, all of them have a rated weight capacity, right?
Yes.
That includes your weight plus all your gear, right?
Yes.
So when you step on the scale in the morning with no clothes on, that's not what your tree stand's got to support. It's got to support all your other weight.
the safe line here is 30 foot, 300 pound rating, but it has 2 cruising knots. So any two of us together would be over that 300 pounds on that
Right.
line. So have your own line. Cheap insurance.
Yeah. Well, if you're up by yourself, what would be in a case where you would actually use 2 prusik knots?
Like I said, you could use one to tie and keep the slack from coming out of your line at the top of the safe line. Otherwise, you just use the one to.
My second one is on my lineman's belt right here.
Oh,
use
yeah?
The lineman's belt there. But that lineman's belt came with that cruising knot designed for it, use with that. But like I said, they got to be different diameters to work.
Yeah.
Normally on the lifeline, you only want one prusik knot, and that's for you. Nobody else or nothing else.
Just you.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a lot of information, and I think it's like it's been almost an hour now. We've been going over this stuff, and this stuff is really important, I think, and that's something that we want to make sure we get out there. If you know somebody that's hunting from elevated platform.
Yeah. Should you have a catastrophic failure and your stand falls or something like that and you're hanging, you can tie a simple knot, keep the slack out, go about 2 fingers and do it again. Just tie a whole series of knots like that, keep as much slack out, but you can actually stand on that with your 2 feet, reach up, slide your prusik knot down. As soon as you can put your weight on the next knot, it'll pull out, and you can sit there and inchworm your way down on your prusik knot from knot to knot down here.
Oh, that's some good information to know. Just you can tie a knot below on the loose end.
Recover if you needed to, and then go back into your suspension trauma periodically to take the weight off, for the blood flow.
That's
You
something.
can self-recover if you had to.
That's something you would have to practice at home.
Yes.
You're not going to learn that after you have fallen and can't recover. So, but it would work.
And like you said, the guy had 2 deer fighting, and they ran into his ladder stand, got tangled up, and he yanked it out from under him. So,
Yeah, and then now if you're hooked onto one of those, that's not you just tie the best little slip knot in there, and then go through and let's see a little closer here. And
you're not cutting the rope. You're not doing any damage to the rope. You're just tying a simple little knot.
So you can,
But you can put your both feet on it, and you can actually stand on it.
by
reach
putting
up
your
and-
feet together
Put
and
your feet together, and reach up and slide the sprucing knot down. Then you go to the next one. That'll pull out. That's why you keep it so close together, because there's not that much slack in the knot.
oh yeah,
Comes out.
yeah, so if I fall, you know, already you'll feel it right away. It'll pull up pretty tight. You'll feel kind
Right.
of a circulation restriction. So I can lower my lineman's belt down, get it where I can stand in it, and take that tension off of my legs so I get my circulation. And now I've got pretty much all the time in the world to sit here, pull the rope out, tie 30, 40 knots, however many I need, and then I can start beginning my descent.
yeah. That's something that would be really something worthwhile to just try. You know, and you don't have to go up very high. You know, just enough so that you got 1 or 2 knots just to try it, so you feel what it feels like when that one breaks loose.
Here at the expo a few years ago, I tried that, and it's a workout.
Yeah, I imagine it would be. Yeah, I imagine it'd be quite a bit of a workout. But what's your
Up
other
and down,
choice?
Slide down, then you go back into suspension trauma relief, standing in your lineman's belt to take the pressure off for a few minutes. Then you go back to it. You know, just trying to hold your feet together and raise up and get that brucing knot. That's a workout.
Yeah, that's why you want them fairly close together, so you don't have to go so far and bend down. And
Like if you
Says when that knot pulls out, you know, you got a little knot, it adds another 6-8 inches to your rope. So that ends up being more than you think it is when you're.
yeah, so you want them really close together, about as close as you
that's
probably
about
get to
2
them.
fingers, and by the time you get slack out, they're about that far apart. But when you pull it out, there's another 7-8 inches of slack that comes out of that knot.
Yeah,
Makes it that much further. You might have to retie a knot to get back up and get that brucing knot. Work your way down slowly. But you can self-recover if all else fails.
yeah, that's something I'd never even thought about. That's something really good.
Where we're at here, very little cell phone signal, but a text will probably go where a cell phone signal won't. Texts are different,
Yeah, they don't take as much signal.
and you might be able to get a text out, but still, you're in some remote areas where there is no cell coverage.
Another thing that's good is a whistle, because a whistle can always yell louder than you can.
Yes, and you can really hear it.
Yep.
It lasts longer than your voice will.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and it don't take much to make a loud noise. I know when I was working at skating rink, we had a little whistle, and you could hear it over the music blaring in the skating rink. You could hear that whistle over the music, and it drowned that out. So, yeah, you could.
And the whistle is an unnatural sound in the wild.
Right.
You don't hear a whistle in the wild, so it would catch rescuers' attention very quickly. That hey, there's a whistle. That's not an elk. That's not a deer or something else making a noise. That's a whistle. Somebody in distress.
And how long can you keep yelling help? You know, before your voice gets tired, and how far will it carry?
In 100 they talk about, firing 3 shots well spaced apart, 3, 3, 3, and dot 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 dash 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 dot 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 is Morse code for SOS.
Right.
Whistle blasts of 3, that usually means help. Draw a lot of people's attention to come check
The
it
only
out.
problem with shooting ammo is how much do you have with you?
Well, and 3 shots, and then 3 more, and then 3 more. Everybody's going to think that person's a very bad shot. They're missing.
Right.
It's just another hunter shooting. Where the whistle is something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one time I tried it, nobody heard my bow shots.
Yeah, they couldn't hear the bow going off.
That trying only goes so far.
Yeah. When you're shooting, the deer don't are even bothered by it. Nobody else is going to hear it. So yeah, that's a lot of good information. I learned some stuff that I didn't realize. Thinking about the pants, putting them in the cargo
Cargo pants.
for your phone, and those knots to climb down if you had to. The fact that the knot needs to be a little bit smaller diameter for the pre-6 knot.
Line needs to be 1/3 smaller at least than the load line. And you can control the rope so easy with one hand, slide it up, and you still have your 3 points of contact, and keep sliding that up.
Yeah, because you can grip the stand and still have your rope inside of there.
Tie it off the bottom, but then a lot of people go up hanging on to the knot, and if you're hanging on to that knot, it won't lock.
Oh yeah.
So that's where we prefer to just control the rope with the offhand, slide it up, and keep walking up, and just keep sliding that up, and keep controlling the rope with your hand and the ladder together. For
Yeah.
the years we've been doing these demonstrations, that's what's worked the best.
Well,
Most
and
consistent.
that's what we want to find out what works the best, and you guys are the ones that do this every year in, year out. So how long have you been doing this then?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
Been here at Ponca, I think we missed the first 4 years, and next year's gonna be 20 years, so it's been 15 years probably about. So
That's been a while.
Yeah, that's about the same amount of time. I've taught every year with Russ here at Ponca, so I'd say 15 years we've been teaching this.
That's some knowledge.
I think I helped about their 3rd year with Weatherby rifles, and then the next year they had 22 rifles, and after that started doing tree stand safety here, and I think that was probably the 3rd year that I started helping, so I think we missed the first course, I think about 15 years.
That's a while. You've seen a lot of changes in tree stands and tree stand safety and requirements, and there's all kinds of different stuff. Yeah.
I would say that if anybody wants to learn about it, get a hold of Game and Parks, and I'm sure Russ and I or Garrett would be willing to put on a demonstration for a group of people.
Yeah.
We did a Pheasants River Meadow Hunt weekend. We did tree stand safety for them, or it was that Wild Turkey Federation. That was Wild
We
Turkey
did it
Federation.
once for Wild Turkey Federation. Had a field day for youth, and we demonstrated there. So we will go around and teach.
You could use turkey hunting from a tree stand, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been in my tree stand, had turkeys walk by, and just like, well, I don't have a tag, so I'm just gonna watch them.
Yeah.
We had women come in that one was traveling, documenting a certain butterfly migration, and she was using tree stands to get up high enough to get pictures. Another one was doing the same thing, except with some kind of bird that was migrating, to get in the upper story to get pictures, to document their migration. Her husbands brought them to us to teach them tree stand safety, to wear a harness, because they weren't wearing harnesses.
Yeah, last thing we'll do is be watching butterflies and all of a sudden be seeing butterflies because you smacked yourself in the head. And
We've done several of us. Dennis Dahl, the one that taught me tree stand safety, and John and I, we've done some demonstrations at some of the Hunter Ed expos. For every 2 years they have a training sessions for Hunter Ed, and it was what to teach for tree stand safety in the Hunter Ed class was one of the most popular. I mean, standing room only out in the hallway, so there's a call for it.
yeah, and fortunately, people are going to see this in all over the world. And if you're in Nebraska, of course, we got these guys here are really good. If you're not, you know what? Check with your local game and parks.
Well, I think here in Nebraska, our last fatality was tree stand related, not shooting related. And we've had quite a few deaths due to tree stand injuries. A lot of them from homemade tree stands, falls and things. And that seems to be where more of our fatalities are at, rather than hunters shooting each other, because hunter safety education training works.
Yeah.
And we've incorporated into tree stand safety now with that too, and that's slowly taking effect.
I know about probably about 23, 24 years ago, there was a guy got shot by another bow hunter. I actually talked to both of them because they both come into my store when I have my store, and it's it's one of those cases that it seemed like to me that one, the shooter violated the first rule, make sure you know what you're shooting at. He thought it was a deer walking out, heard the sound, and basically didn't identify it.
Shot the sound.
Yeah, and I know if you've been out in the woods, how many times have you seen the sun come up and you think there's a deer standing there, all of a sudden comes a tree. You know, or reverse, you've been watching this tree, all of a sudden the sun starts going down, and it's like, there's a deer there. No, that was a tree I've been watching all day. And, you know, that's real easy to do, and one of the things he could have been walking out is have a flashlight. Deer don't carry flashlights.
Yeah.
At least I don't know of any yet.
Green light or red light doesn't hurt your night vision,
Right?
like a white light does. So green or red headlamp or something like that is a wonderful thing to do.
And that helps in that part of it, but you know, we're kind of talking about tree stand safety, but you know, that's something that you got to be aware of is other hunters out walking around. Sometimes they can chase a deer to you. I've had that happen before.
Well, if you're an archery hunter and you're hunting during turkey, during the firearms November season and fall, you still have to wear 400 square inches orange on your head, chest, and back at all times. Archery hunters hunting deer during the firearm November season in Nebraska have to wear 400 square inches on head, chest, and back. And they don't like it, but when I talk to them, that's when they seem to get the deer. There's so many other people out there moving the deer around.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I have to admit, well, that's when I got my deer. So.
Now, archery in December, muzzleloaders in December. Muzzlers have to wear the orange, but archers don't.
No, it's not. Muzzleloading centerfire rifle season, they do.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of weird. You got people out there with firearms, but they have to wear the orange, but yet the bow hunters don't. I always thought that was a little bit strange or something that's a little different. But
any firearm season, and I think the river antlerless, there's an October firearm season, and if they're on the river antlerless, if they are archery hunting at that time, they also need to wear the 400 square inches of orange. If they're archery hunting.
Anytime they have center fire weapons are available, then
Yep. Any center fire or firearm, we call them firearms or guns. A weapon is what military and law enforcement carry to deliberately shoot another person. In hunter safety education, we refer to guns or firearms. We use a multitude of various different shooting sports. The one thing all those shooting sports have in common, you don't shoot yourself, anybody else, accidentally, on purpose, for any reason whatsoever. So we call them guns or firearms.
well, the first rule of gun safety is don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot.
Yeah,
And that was don't point the muzzle at anything you don't want to destroy.
Muzzle control is the first thing you touch the gun. Muzzle control, if it goes off, if it's safe direction, everybody will be safe. So.
Yeah, you can always tell somebody that's got some training because, for instance, their fingers on not even anywhere near the trigger.
Well, one of the fatalities we had in the tree stand was the father handed his rifle down to the son reached up and grabbed it, with his finger on the trigger, and he shot his dad and killed him. That happened here in Nebraska about 8-10 years ago.
Well, one, you should not have it loaded while you're bringing it up or down, or at least open the bolt. So you can't do that. And, you know,
Safety was off, and safety is a mechanical device that can fail. You never trust the safety.
right. I like one time when I was at Bass Pro, this lady come in with a whole list of guns that had a fire and wanted to get some value on them. I said, well, they're in the trunk. I'm going to look at it. Nice day. You bet I want to go outside. So I went outside. And what's the first thing you do when you pick up a gun? You check for clear, right? So I checked the first one, checked the shotgun, opened the action up, and out comes a live round. Safety off, in the back of the trunk with a whole bunch of other guns, laying in the back of the trunk, bouncing around, and lucky it didn't get pulled and go off. And she said she asked her husband, they unloaded? He said, yeah. Well, I bet.
All guns are always loaded, always.
First rule, a gun is loaded. Always loaded.
Treat every gun as if it's loaded. I don't care if you're 11, 12 years old. You're around the firearm, you're in the same room with the firearm, you're an adult, and there's an adult level of responsibility. You will be
Right.
an adult.
And I taught my kids, 3 years old. You know, I'd hand them the handgun and help them check for clear, and hand back to me. I'd check and hand back to them, and let them touch it. It's not a toy, but just get them used to it and know that you pick it up. I never locked my guns because of my kids. I locked my guns up because I didn't trust their friends. You know, and the same thing with bows. You never draw a bow back unless you have an arrow in it.
Yeah, dry firing a bow is a good way to just have it disintegrate on you.
And get hurt.
I'll get hurt real bad.
I actually had a bow. It was a poured magnesium riser, so it wasn't the new machined ones. And I was getting ready for hunting season, and I had to keep just in sight, just in sight. So finally, I went up close. I shot. I'm holding the bottom half of the bow. The top half of the bow come back and smacked me in the chest. It broke.
Yeah, I've got several barrels that have been blown up that people come into hunter ed class get rid of the evidence. They weren't thinking right. And I've had a mom come in and hand me a compound bow that her husband bought at a garage sale and got home and discovered cracks in the camouflage where the limb was cracking. It had been dry fired. And so that's what I have for sample in class to pass around and say, you know, don't do this.
Yeah.
This is what happens if you do that. So.
Well, I know when I had the store people come in and, you know, we're cleaning them and the axle's bent. Only one way you can bend an axle, dry fire it. It's a hardened steel. Nothing as hard as that. How do you bend an aluminum cam on a hardened stainless steel axle without dry firing it? And then, or the strings to be off. And I come in and say, well, did you dry fire it? No. It's like, okay, if you dry fired it and I don't check it, it could blow up on you. Yeah, I dry fired it. Okay, now I can check further for other damage. You know, like in the limbs. You know, there you take the cotton ball and the alcohol, rub on it, and if you see anything catch, then you know there's a crack in it. And
Heard one go dry fired at Kearney, at Cabela's, and the two people headed for the door, and all the employees headed for the bow to check it out.
yeah,
That's buying a used bow. You know, you're on your own. But if you're gonna buy a bow, don't go to Walmart and buy a bow, and then buy this and buy this. Counterbalance, what do you call them?
stabilizers
Stabilizers and stuff. Go to someplace like Bass Pro or Cabela's or a good archery shop. Was it Blue River? That's here in Nebraska.
Yeah, there's several places that do them.
Places, they will help you get the bow tuned to you and fit to you, and you'll be money ahead in the long run without wasting money and finding out this doesn't work, that doesn't work.
I always tell them
one, but it doesn't work for you.
Yeah, I always tell them to go to the pro shop first, because you're not always guaranteed to have somebody at the Bass Pro, the Cabela's, that knows what they're doing. Now, when I worked there, we always had people that knew what they was doing. I've gone in and one place after I was gone and the other guy was gone. Well, I applied somewhere else, and they said, you know, I'm archery. Well, I shot a couple times when I was a kid. They're not working on archery. So there are times when you go in there and they're knowledgeable. There's shields. There's all kinds of different places. Go in there and see. You know, talk to them. See if they know what they're doing.
When I've been around shields, they've always, what I've heard, you know, in the background, they've always known what they're doing.
Yeah, every time I've been into shields, that the archer guys, you know, techs knew. But that's here in Omaha.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Lincoln.
Yeah.
But go to an archery pro shop. You'll be money ahead in the long run. Don't buy useless stuff that you don't need. It doesn't work for you.
And that's what I did when I had my store. It's like, you know, trying stabilizers out. Try this one. Try that one. Can you see the difference? Buy the cheaper one. Yeah, I was never one to push high dollar items on somebody unless they really wanted them.
You'd be money ahead. So I tell kids in our archery ed and hunter ed class, you're money ahead to, you know, if you want to buy a rifle, belong to a gun club, find somebody who's got one like that and get a test drive.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you know, with handguns, you know, it's like go to the one of the ranges that rent them and rent the guns. You know, it might cost you $15 or something for to rent them, and a lot of places, you know, you can rent them for as long as you're there. You can keep trying them out. Try them and see what you like. Yeah. Same thing with bows. Put it in your hand. If you don't like what it feels, put it up.
Well, like here at the expo, Runnings, I think, has some shotguns. They got like 4 different models of new shotguns, new models, and you can test drive it down here and shoot it.
Yeah.
They got some incoming clay targets and easy to shoot, so that's a good test drive. See if it fits you.
Test them out, and you know, even looking at tree stands, you know, there's a lot of different options and features, and you know, check them out. Don't go for the cheapest one because it may not be the one that works best for you. So, well, it's been great talking to you guys here. It's
Yeah.
I know we've talked several times, you know, over the years we've been here, but I just had to get all this information out and you know, get everybody as knowledgeable as you can on shooting safely from elevated platforms. You know, whether it's a climber, a hang on, or a ladder stand, and I prefer to be elevated as opposed to in a ground blind. I can see more, but disadvantage is you can be seen easier. But I just like the visibility of being up.
Even on your ground blinds, you're talking visibility. They do make orange caps go on ground blinds. So
Yeah, I've seen those.
you
Yeah,
got your orange on, and you don't look like a hay bale. It's a safe backstop for somebody to shoot at.
yeah, yeah. I've seen those. It kind of covers like 4 foot square. Something covers the whole top. So
Some
at least
states
there's
require
orange.
it to have some they may have an orange panel they put on the side that flops around the wind, gets people's attention. There's different. Know your state's requirements.
Yeah, each state's going to be a little different. You know, here in Nebraska, archery is half hour before sunrise, half hour after sunset.
Firearm,
That
rifle,
last,
same thing.
that first half hour, that last half hour, if you're in big cover, you can't shoot anyway because you can't see. I've had that before where, you know, middle of the day and I got to turn my lights on my pins because I can't see my pins. You know, get a cloud come over. Now today it's kind of nice because there's sun's out. You know, up here you can kind of see the sun. It's nice and bright. But
Know your state's rules. You may not be able to have lit pins.
yeah.
Some states don't allow that.
You know, and mechanical broadheads and there's all kinds of stuff. So yeah, definitely check.
I'm
You
a
know-
farmer, and I prefer that they have the light up nocks that light up when they shoot, so they can find their arrows. So I don't find it an expensive $3,000 combine or tractor tire.
Right. Now what I put on mine is they got a reflective wrap.
Yeah.
I put that on all mine, and those I can find it from over here. And I had one arrow I shot, and I caught a branch, and the knock went flying out. So, you know, I couldn't find the arrow or the knock. But the wrap I could have.
And one field I found the back half of 2 arrows over the years, and
Oh,
hopefully I haven't found the front half in the tire yet. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing you gotta think of that when you shoot. You know, you gotta recover that, at least the broadhead part.
my dad, I guess it was my uncle, he had a tractor he bought at auction, had new tires on it, said the warranty goes with the tractor. And the first day disc into the field, he got a deer antler through one tire, and it took him a couple days to come fix it. And the next round, he hit the other antler with the other tire. So
Yeah.
it can happen.
Yeah, it can happen, but
They weren't big antlers; they were just little tiny spikes like a needle. And
oh yeah, the big ones probably would have broke. The little ones stuck in the tire.
I have had one wrap around the front tire and cut the sidewall on it. I got stopped just in time on one big deer antler once. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the hazards when you have
Yeah.
deer in the field. And
I do know that hunter safety education works because each of the 10-year periods, 54 to 64, 64 to 74, Nebraska averaged 4 to 4 people dead in each of those 10-year periods. And now we're less than 1 in a 10-year period. And I know for hunting, well, we have farm ground close to the Platte River. And once archery had started up, we quit finding dead deer in the corn at harvest time. Over the next few years, we're being educated to take better shots, proper shots, not through the shoulder blade, and we didn't have as many deer getting away, and I haven't found a dead deer in the corn since until EHD hit in 2012.
yeah, that's kind of
We were
out of the
finding
hunter's
3 or 4
control.
Dead deer from archers, having deer get away, taking bad shots. But with the education, that's gone away. Don't see that anymore.
Well, the last thing we do is shoot a deer and then it die and you don't get the meat. You know, after all, that's why we shoot it, for the meat.
But yeah, we found places where 15-foot diameter circle and the coyotes tore the deer to pieces, and spine in the head. But once archery had started, the next 4 or 5 years, it all went away.
So we're going down, yeah.
Yeah. Haven't found one in decades now. So
Well, that's good.
until 2012 with the EHD, and we had dead deer from the EHD. But,
Right.
but due to archers, we haven't seen one in decades. So
That,
it works.
that's,
It works.
yeah.
30 years this year, and 2024, 30 years of archery ed, and 50 years of hunter ed in the state of Nebraska. So it works.
Yeah, so if you're watching this and your state don't have that, you might just I imagine they could probably get a hold of the state of Nebraska and see what they're doing for their education and
They
do
can,
something similar.
There's remote learning where they can, if they're over 29, they can, or between 16 and 29, they can take it online and get certified online and don't have to attend a course. If they're 11 to 16, they can take an online course and then do a 2-hour hunt safe where we cover tree stand safety, hunter, basically gun safety and archery safety. And cover those 3 things in 2 hours. They just have to do a one night 2 hour, and then those are a combo course where they get both hunter ed and archery ed now. So those are real popular.
Now that's good. And a lot of places now are requiring hunter ed, any firearm sports that they're in. I know my son when he did trap, he had to have hunter ed, and
Yep.
and I'm old now. I didn't have to have them, but I took them anyway because
They had just under 2,500 kids at the Cornhusker trap shoot this last year, and you almost never have to say anything about safety or muzzle control to a kid, but the parents are holding the gun. You got to talk to them.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, adult, ask your kid what you're doing wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. If somebody walking down the sidewalk, the action code or something, it's the parent, not the kid.
Yeah.
Kids have had to have hunter eds.
Yeah, and the parents probably haven't, and it
It's been
should.
30 years since they took it, so they forgot.
Well,
And
and
bad habits.
I took it when my kids was taking it. I went ahead and took it with them because I had to take them there anyway. So I was like, okay, signed up and take it as well. And
Yep.
you learn something for every time you go in. Even if you take it again, you're gonna learn something. So it doesn't hurt to go to those things multiple
A lot
times.
of parents tell me they realize how many bad habits they got into when they sit through the class when their kids are taking it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know when my oldest son was getting in doing some hunting, I says, okay, I'm going to ask you 3 questions randomly. If you fail into one, you're unloading the gun, you're done for the day. And one was, where's everybody in the hunting party? Now he's doing pheasant, and he'd have to tell me where everybody's at. And then the next question is, where would you expect somebody to show up? And of course, generally the first question I'd check see if his safety's on. If the safety wasn't on, he was done anyway. But and then you have to say, well, okay, somebody could pop around that tree, trees, and so he always knew, where everybody was, as well as where you might expect somebody to show up.
Yep.
And you got to do that all the time.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah. Well, and even carrying a handgun, for protection. I always used to sit with my back away from the door, facing the doors. For decades I've done that. And so now I have a little bit different thing. I go in, it's like, okay, if I had to use it, which would be a safe direction? And in most places there is none. You got to take that into archery. It's like, okay, where can I safely shoot?
Things I've run into and learned a lot of things teaching with different instructors over here. I always learn something from every different instructor I've taught with. And one of them put deer scent, pick out a leaf on a trail, shoot one in the ground with a field point, pick it over here, and was he high or low on that leaf and shoot. Well, the deer could walk down the trail and stop and sniff. Well, he already had taken a shot at that yardage.
He already knew what the yardage was, yeah.
You'd already had a practice out. They stopped and sniffed the scent on the fletching on the arrow. So
Yeah. That's one way to do it.
yeah.
And that makes sure your bow's working.
Within a yard, plus or minus, he'd already taken a shot at that yardage. He knew it, but, well, he was a little bit high on that leaf or a little bit low on that leaf on the ground. He already had a practice shot.
Something to take in practice shots.
Yeah. Carried field points
Yeah.
for that purpose.
Yeah, don't shoot broadheads because that really wrecks the broadheads. It dulls them up.
But they were the same weight as his broadheads, and he knew from practice that they shot the same. So
Yeah.
had his own 3D target, so he could use his own broadheads if he wanted to.
Yeah, I know my hunting bow, my broadheads do not fly like my field tips. But my sights are set for my broadheads.
Yeah.
So I got another bow. So if I'm shooting targets, I want to hit the spot it made me at, then I use that bow. But there's a lot to, and shooting out of tree stands. You know, whether either one of the styles. You know that
practice on level, but in a tree stand,
you're always down.
you're down, and just how that affects everything. That yardage is horizontal as gravity acts. It's not this direction; it's this direction.
Yeah.
That's where the rangefinders have the true ballistic TBI or whatever they call it, that tells you the actual gravity acts this way. But if it's 200 yards this way, but it's 100 yards this way, it's going to be
100 yards,
flight,
right?
or your bullet flight's going to be that 100 yards rather than the 200 yards.
And I've gone over that on my podcast, the Architect 101 podcast, multiple times on how to judge that, and a lot of people don't understand it. You know,
Sure, a lot of the rangefinders have it built in.
yeah. And I was just arranged to a tree and then go down to the trail, and I had one that was 20 yards away. The trail was 20 yards away. It was a 20-yard shot, but that deer looked like it was a 40-yard shot. I shot it for 20 and got it because I knew that was only a 20-yard shot.
A lot of the professional guides, they'll tell their hunter, you know, that's a 200-yard shot. Oh no, that's got to be 400. And they almost all misses are over the back. They shoot high. They the guide. Guide lives there. No.
Yeah, they don't understand it. You know, especially construction guys know the 3-4-5 triangle, and you got one side 3, the other side is 4, and that's the right angle, and then the distance between the 2 points is 5. So you learn that
Square.
and that's the thing that a lot of them don't understand. And
A lot of professional guides say everybody shoots over the back because they don't believe them that that elevation, that angle that you're shooting at, it's a horizontal gravity that acts on it. And that's
gravity only works horizontally, not vertically.
Now with the rangefinders, that people are believing the guides now, so they're got their own rangefinders they trust.
Well, and knowing that, if the guy had said, okay, that's 200-yard shot, I shot it for 200. Now, on my /6, I'm within 3 inches out to 300, so it really doesn't matter. I haven't sighted in that way. Dead on at 200. But anyway, we're starting to get busy over at their archery range tonight. That's where I'm supposed to be helping out. So
Right where you're supposed to be.
yeah, I'm going to head over there. And like I said, it's been great talking to you guys. I know we got a lot of good information. And if anybody has any questions, of course, get a hold of you guys at Nebraska Game and Parks, or get a hold of me. If you have questions, I can filter the questions through. And if you're looking to start a program that is you don't have in your state, or just get a hold of any of us and we'll send you the Nebraska Game and Parks, and then they can help you get it set up. So all you guys out there hunting on elevated platforms, make sure you're safe and pay attention to what you're doing, and buy the good equipment. The safety harnesses that come with the tree stands, buy your own, because as you've seen earlier, they're a nightmare to put on. I've managed to get them on a couple of times, but I have the other ones, and yeah.
Put the deer on the ground, not yourself.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later, and we'll see you. I'm sometime. Sure, I know I'll see you guys later.